This is The Express with Gary Allen, your 360-degree view of the world. Now, here's your host, Gary Allen.
Okay, everybody. Good evening and welcome to this edition of The Express. I hope everybody had a wonderful week since the last time we had an opportunity to talk. A lot of stuff is going on in the world, but tonight we're going to put that all aside. I have an absolutely wonderful guest coming on, but before we get to Tina, and I know she's on the line, so hang in there. I'll get to you in just a second or two. Want to remind everybody how you can find out a little bit about me on Facebook at Gary Allen, A-L-A-N. You can also go to youtube.com for Gary Allen The Express. This program, along with all the other past programs, will be up on Friday, and they're up right now, some of them. Thursday night, this program will repeat itself at 7 p.m. on diversitybroadcastnetwork.com. Also on progressivevoices.com come Friday afternoon on the demand as well as their app. And tunein.com, TMV Cafe. Go to TMV Cafe if you're already registered there, and you can hear all the great programming here on this network. Very shortly, my website will be done. And when that occurs, we'll be able to. You'll be able to hear me on iTunes. You'll be able to hear me on iHeart. You'll be able to hear me on SoundCloud. You'll be able to hear me all over the bloody place as soon as we get done with that. But the holidays interrupted that, and the gentleman who's helping me, along with a few other people, we've been kind of busy at the radio station doing a lot of other things. So you'll have to forgive me for a little delay on that. Tonight we have a very interesting guest. Not only is she an extremely accomplished businesswoman, but she happens to be a fabulously beautiful young lady. And I've said that before, and I can say that unabashed because I'm at the age where I can make those kind of comments. And she really, truly is a truly, the title of her book is Polished, but she is also a polished businesswoman as well as other things. Let me get and tell you a little bit about our guest. Tina Panariello, I hope I get that right, is the author of Polished, and has also been the owner of Nail Artistry for the last 33 years. Her incredible life story is detailed throughout her book, which chronicles her journey becoming an accomplished actor, nail technician, award-winning world-class hand-painted nail artist, and educator. Then, having lost it all, she discovered how to master the game of life. Boy, that's something I would love to be able to do, to become a motivational speaker, author, and business consultant / life coach. Tina also has an associate's degree from the prestigious American Academy of Dramatic Arts and a graduate of a workshop of business opportunities. She's a member of the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, the Brooklyn Kings County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and a National Association of Professional Women, and most recently became a certified producer at the BRIC Arts Media Center in Brooklyn, New York. And one of her greatest accomplishments, she says, is inspiring others to achieve their dreams. And I think that's pretty darn neat. If you want to find out more about her, you can go to her website at www.tinapariello.com. fancynail44@gmail.com. You can also check out her book at www.tatepublishing.com. And if you want to give her a call directly, it's 917-582-7602. And I am, after all of that, I'm winded, and I just want to welcome Tina to the program and to the Express. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, Tina, to join us.
Thank you very much, Gary. That was wonderful. Thank you for the accolades. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, if I could, I'd send you roses, but with the way the weather is, I don't know if they'd last very long. That's for sure.
And I love roses.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was married for a lot of years, if you want to call what I went through marriage. Anyway, my wife didn't care for flowers and all that crazy stuff. As a matter of fact, where most couples will have a little bit of fun on Valentine's Day or something like that, she didn't go for any of that stuff. As a matter of fact, her idea of foreplay was flannel pajamas and cold cream. So you got to figure what kind of a marriage I was involved in. So,
and that's what I paint. Flowers.
Yeah, you do. Oh, really? Well, because
yes.
I know. Well, yeah, I've seen some of the stuff on your website, which is absolutely fantastic stuff. And it reminds me of my mother. My mom was an interior designer. And like you, she antiqued furniture. She painted on walls and she did all kind of crazy things. And then, of course, she would love it today because that would take away a lot of her fun. But she would still love, if she was alive today, to be able to do all that stuff. She just loved to tinker with all kinds of things. Were you growing up as a child? And I know that you talk about it in your biography and everything, that it was you and another sibling, and basically when the grown-ups were around, you and your was it a brother or a sister were basically ignored, I guess, growing up?
My brother, he was 3 years older than I was.
Yeah. But for you, you were a self-motivator. I mean, you had to be in sort of a sense, and you had to find your own direction in a sense.
Yes, I did. I sort of had to. You're right, 100% right. Never thought about it until I got older, but I always dreamed. I always wanted to do something, but my brain always made me think of something else.
Yeah. Do you think maybe also too sometimes, and we're going to get into your business acumen as because I want people out there to understand how you got where you are, the pitfalls that you had to go through, and how wonderful of an artist you are. Do you ever think sometimes when you grow up without really a lot of guidance in your life as far as which way to go and talking to people, and nobody can really give you the answers, that you eventually talk yourself out of whatever that dream is, unless you are so driven that there's nothing anybody can say that can drive you from what you want to do?
No, anything that I wanted to do that I was driven towards, I did.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I wrote that book.
Yes. And we're going to get to that here in just a little bit. But talk about your family a little bit.
Go ahead, speak. I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
My family background was, we were actually low income. Mm-hmm. Grew up on the Lower East Side. Very low, like 2 blocks away from the river. Mm. And my mother she was one of 13 children. My father was one of 7. So I'm sure you could imagine the dynamics in the household. My mother's family, Italian, were always there, always in the house.
Yeah.
I was never alone. That's why I always had time to think. And my aunts were always there, and my uncles were always there. And I was always with them, whereas to get away from that, my father would take me to his family, and they were Polish and Ukrainian. So I went there, and it was sort of like my downtime, my time to talk to my other relatives. Even though I was young, I would still talk with them and tell them what I hated at the other house, which we all do. We all dislike certain things.
Yeah, I made the mistake once of breaking my ankle at the shore up in between in Connecticut in Old Lyme, and I sprained my ankle, and I remember my one uncle who was heating it up and massaging it. He made the mistake of saying, "Gee, Gary, do you have a favorite uncle?" And I said, "Yeah, Uncle John," and it was Uncle Pete that was working on my ankle. So I was raised by Polish people too.
Well, that side of my family were great. I went there when I was a little girl. Always to Pennsylvania. And
Where?
Not my
Where in
mother.
Pennsylvania?
Northampton, Pennsylvania.
Oh, because I'm from Wilkes-Barre.
Oh, gosh, yes. I know where that is because the other part of the family was from Bethlehem.
Ah, yes.
Not Bethlehem, right? Bethlehem?
Yeah, Bethlehem. Well, it's like
right?
it's like the city of Baltimore is not for people who are from Baltimore. It's Baltimore. It's not Baltimore. It's Baltimore.
Right. And I spent a lot of time there. But also part of it is that my mom got very sick when I was about 5 years old. Mm-hmm. So she was taken out of the house in front of me by my father over her shoulder. And I was still in the crib. My brother was in his room. And she was just taken out of the house. And I ran into my brother. And I said, Andrew, you got to get up. Andrew. And he goes up to me and I said, Daddy just took Mommy. Mother's gone. I don't know where she went. Mother's gone. And at that time, I didn't realize that my aunt lived with us. Mm-hmm. You know, you just don't know it because they're always in the house, so you don't know it. Yeah. And my mother was in a convalescent home for a year, so my aunt brought me up. Mm-hmm. My father was still there. He worked nights till 10 o'clock at night. He was in the textile industry. He made the big spools that you put on the sewing machines in the industry. And that's how I grew up. So when my mother came home, unfortunately, she couldn't take care of my brother and I. So we were sent to Fresh Air Fund. I'm sure you might have heard of that. When you lived in the city, children were sent to summer homes during the summer so they can get out of the city and see what it's like. Well, my brother went to a farm. I went to a home in Pennsylvania. And then when my mother came home and she couldn't take care of us, she presented my brother with an option and said, Andrew, unfortunately, Mother can't do this. I'd like to know, would you want to go stay at the farm and stay there for a little while so I can get better? But Tina's going to stay here. Well, you don't know what's going to happen to you when you're younger. And my brother went. I don't remember how long he was there. And it caused a problem. It did a damage to the family eventually when he got older. But it made me stronger, not knowing it at the time, but it did. It made me a stronger person.
Yeah, yeah. I think when we go through our childhood and what you would commonly refer to as the normal flow of one's life, mom and dad go to school, come home, the average every day, leave it to beaver kind of a life, which most of us did not lead. I don't care who you were. But when you have an interruption of that, either a parent dying young or in your case, your mother had to go someplace and then something happened to your brother, I think it does tend to make your metal a little stronger than it might have been if everything had been hunky-dory.
It does if you are willing to do it. My brother couldn't do it, but I did it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always in the family the strong personalities, the normal personalities, the weaker ones, the mild ones, the passive ones. I know I have that in my family. But we're all pretty strong. We're pretty honorary people, but my parents brought us up to believe in yourself. And even though my parents didn't understand why I wanted to not become a doctor, instead get into show business, was something that kind of rattled their cage a little bit, but it was something that, they wanted me to be a doctor. They didn't want me to follow in my father's footsteps. He worked for the airlines, and I tried to follow in his footsteps, but I found that it wasn't for me. I got involved in radio and television, and I've been happy ever since.
That's great. It's funny you said that. I wanted to be a doctor.
Really?
I wanted to be a surgeon because I was very good at painting and drawing and doing things with my fingers. And now they call me the nail doctor.
Yes, and if you go on your website, you will see, ladies and gentlemen, some of the most fantastic nail art that I have ever. That's a thing that amazes me all the time, and it's not cheap either. I'm used to the old day, and I'm 64 years old, and I'm used to it where women wore red polish or black polish or whatever, and that was it. I went to McDonald's during the Christmas holidays, and the young lady that works behind the counter, and she's wonderful. She had every finger was I guess her girlfriend is a beautician or a nail artist, such as yourself, and she had each finger different. One finger was in red with a candy cane. The next one was green with a little sleigh. And we're going to get into all of that crazy stuff. And then she started telling me how much each nail costs. And I went, are you kidding me?
One nail that I did in competition was $150. One nail.
Oh, man, what I could do with $150 just sitting in the bank.
Yes. But
when did this all come about? When did the escalation of all this artistry come about as technology grew?
Well, today it's a little different than when I was doing it. When I went into nail art I opened the salon in 83. In 85, I was subjected to seeing that. at an IBS show, an International Beauty Show in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I first saw that they were doing nail competitions. And that's when it started in 80, 83, 85, 86.
Mm-hmm.
Then it became very big, but it became big with hand-painted nail art. You didn't put things on the nails. It was just hand painting.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't airbrushing. That's what you were competing in. Today, it's all done, some hand painting, and some it is done with an acrylic enhancement. Like you make a nail out of acrylic, which is a liquid and a powder.
Mm-hmm.
You form it into a flower, and then you stick that on the nail. And then you add to that. That is what is done today, or they're adding pearls or rhinestones or gold. So you're judged differently than when I did it. But nail art is still big. It's just done differently.
We're talking to Tina better go ahead and say your name because I'm going to kill it.
Panariello.
Panariello. Yes, I practiced it so much all day long, too. Tina Panariello. She is a nail artist, and she also happens to be a life coach, a motivational speaker, and she happens to be an absolutely wonderful, wonderful young lady. Please pick up her book, Polished, which you can get at Barnes & Noble or at Amazon. It's really a great book to read. We're going to go over some of the chapters with that. Let's talk a little. Were you always artistic? I mean, you said earlier you wanted to be a surgeon, which means you must be able to think in 3D because that's primarily what surgeons do. They think in more than one dimensional because, and for surgeons, it's like a chess match. They're thinking 2 and 3 moves ahead in the surgery. Were you always that way in your mind? Were you always artistic? Did you always see things different than others?
Now I could say yes to that. I think I did because I used to do my own drawings in school. Mm-hmm. I didn't, you know how people trace what they have to draw?
Right.
I copied it step by step. What I did draw, now this is going to get you, I used to draw medical drawings. My mother had medical books in the house, and I would open them up and I would draw them. They would be small, and I would put them on an 8x10. Exactly the same picture that was in that medical book. And I drew a whole book. I took a whole summer, stayed indoors, and that's what I did. So I'm drawing that small since I was 14 years old, 13 years old, however old. When I was in junior high school, I started it without realizing. I just did it. I loved it. Mm-hmm. I loved to draw. And I love to build, to make things. I was a seamstress. I built my own stage when I was acting.
How did that? I mean, that's just an offshoot or a piggyback of your creativity. But how did you get involved in the working the boards, as we say in the business?
I used to work for a bank. And one of my friends said, Tina, I'm going to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I'm going to audition. Why don't you come? I looked at him like he had 3 heads. I said, why are you asking me to come? I don't know anything about acting. He said, well, did you do any of it in school? I said, yeah, I did the sing in school. You know, you get up on stage, you sing, you talk, you dance, whatever you do. He said, oh, come on, Tina, let's go. So I came home that night. I was married. My ex was ready to leave for work. I walked in the house, and I said, I have to talk to you about something, and I threw him on the bed. He was completely dressed, so was I. I sat on him, and I looked at him, and I said, Al, I want to go to acting school. What do you think? And he looked up at me, and he said, well, you go to work. I said, yeah. He goes, you make money. I go, yeah. He goes, well, why not go? I work nights. It'll give you something to do. That's how it started.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty cool. Well, you know, when I started in middle school acting and stuff, and I grew up with a young man whose mother was a casting director, so she had me in a lot of Tony Rome movies, and I even did the wedding scene in The Godfather. Yeah, and I got to meet Luca Brasi. You know, he was a school teacher.
I didn't know.
He died, I guess, about a year after the movie Godfather came out, but he was an elementary school teacher. A nice man. Absolutely the nicest man in the world. But I remember when I first got started, and it was in middle school, and I just the drama club, because that's where all the girls were, and that's where Gary wanted to be. And
Uh-huh.
I remember auditioning for something, and I said to the teacher, I said, but I'm not really an actor. And she said, "Have you ever lied to your mom and dad?" And I said, "Well, yeah." She said, "You're an actor." And she said, "Did you get away with it?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, you're an actor, there's no doubt about it." Has all of that creativity, um, was it always there for you? I mean, as a youngster, did you ever dream that you'd be where you are today?
No, not exactly. No. I mean, I dreamed of things, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I had gone to the Education of Alliance in Manhattan, and I took dance, and I took sewing, and I thought I was going to go into interior decorating, actually, because I like
Mm,
doing that, and I like making clothes.
mm.
Where this came from, I don't know. You know what I did think I was going to do? I thought I was going to go into the beauty business, but to be a hairdresser.
Oh,
Because
thank
I
God. Thank God you do what you do. I can
I,
just see somebody coming out of your shop now with gold things in their hair and sprayed. Well, although they do that, the young kids today with purple hair, green
yes,
hair,
they do. They do.
you
But
know.
I thought, and I always played with makeup, make believe makeup. I would make believe my
Mm-hmm,
play at night before you go to sleep. You know,
mm-hmm,
some people they take their cars to bed with them and they play, or their
mm-hmm.
dolls. I would sit there with paper and make a compact or a lipstick, and make believe I was working with makeup. So I did
Hmm.
have that idea. I just didn't think it would be where it is now.
I actually, makeup artists that I work with on different movies and sets and stuff have all said, when I would say to them, "Is this something you always wanted to do?" And they say, "Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to play with my sister's makeup, or, if it was a woman, yeah, I'd play with my mom's makeup. If it was a guy, yeah, I'd play with this makeup, or I was always doing," and of course, that's turned into many of these makeup people in Hollywood have turned into special effects makeup for
Mhm.
a lot of these monster movies and everything else like that. Uh, it's, so let's talk a bit about your business acumen. You really had to start from scratch. Literally, you got some money from your family, but you literally had to start from scratch. Looking back on it now, would you attempt the same thing today that you did back then?
If I wanted it, yes.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted it, yes. That when I started with a friend of mine because I used to do my own nails. I started with a friend. We worked together. It didn't work out. And with one nipper, one bottle of nail polish, and two friends, I started doing it in my house.
Yes, because you had a jewelry business at home too, right?
Right. And that I did nails along with jewelry. It's really funny. I would try to get a party for jewelry,
Mm-hmm.
and my nails were always painted. I wasn't doing nail art. I was just painting designs with nail polish. And I would look at the waitress or whomever I was talking to, and I would say, "Would you like to give me a jewelry party?" And they go, "Well, I don't know." I said, "Well, look at my nails. Tell me if you like what you see." And they
Mm-hmm.
would go, "Oh my God, that's gorgeous. Did you do it?" I said, "Yes, I did." "What if I gave you this as a gift besides the jewelry, a
Mm-hmm.
percentage of the jewelry?"
Mm-hmm.
"Would you really?" I said, "Yeah, I really would. That's why I'm telling you." And that's how it started. My jewelry business went as far as I chose it to go. I made
Mm-hmm.
President's Club. I
Mm-hmm.
made enough money, but my nail business was starting to take off slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And I acquired through word of mouth. I worked in my home, and I went to other people's homes. I drove to their homes. For 2 years, I did this, Gary. I loved it. I'd start at 8 o'clock after Wayne went to school. That's my son's name.
Mm-hmm.
I'd come back by 2:30, quarter to 3 to pick him up. We would have dinner, do his homework, get everything settled because I was divorced at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a babysitter that he loved. She was a girl from the block, and he couldn't wait till she came to the house. And I would go, yes, I would leave by 7 o'clock to get to my customer's house with 5 women in the house. Mm-hmm. I did 5 women's nails.
Wow.
In one night, between coffee, cake, nails, conversation, I'd get home 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And that went on. But it was great. It was wonderful. I can't explain it. You know, you think you get high on nail polish because people smell nail polish to get high, but I didn't do that. I was just high on talking to people, learning, giving advice. That was it. The nail industry and the bar industry, they're all like being a doctor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, whatever you want to call them. And you become a mentor by talking to these people who have problems and they want your opinion. So you give it to them, and you know, this is how it grows. And then at that time, my boyfriend, I don't even remember if we were engaged. I'm not positive. But he said, you have to get a store. I said, I don't want a store. Leave me alone. You can't be coming home 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning. And I said, I am not ready for a store. And that says something there, what the kind of person I am. When I'm ready, I will go after it. Well, it turns out 3 months later, I found the store. And when I went back and told him, he said, that's the same store. And I started laughing. I was hysterical.
That's
and
great.
And I said, if I could run a house, why can't I run a business? That's how I looked at it at the time.
Yeah.
You know, you have to pay rent, you have to pay electricity, you have to pay this, you got to pay that, same thing.
Right.
So
right.
I spoke to my parents, and they gave me $35,000. He spoke to his parents. They gave him $5,000. I didn't think of going to a bank. I didn't know anything about it. Write a proposal, go to a bank and present a proposal. At that time, you didn't think about it. I'm sure you did it. I'm sure big businesses did that. I was a little business. I didn't think but I knew I could turn to my parents. That's how I got the money.
Yeah.
The best part was I drew up the blueprints because I knew how to do blueprints. I designed the entire salon. My brother, my uncle, and my fiance did all the work, so I didn't have to pay for that. And that $35,000 plus the 5, so it's 40, built my store.
Wow.
And I didn't have to pay anything for building it. I just had to go buy like the wallpaper, put it up, and get the glass people. But I knew what I wanted. I wanted what I wanted at home. I wanted a home feeling. I wanted the women to come there to be comfortable, to feel good, not to walk into a store and feel like a stranger.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I built.
We're talking to Tina Panariello. I think I got it right. She's the author of Polished and a remarkable woman and her life story. I am so pleased to have you're listening to The Express. I'm Gary Allen, and I'm so pleased to have Tina here. And if it wasn't for, I think, LinkedIn, I would have never found you.
Right.
So, and thank God for that. Looking back on it, talk to people out there that may be interested in getting involved in a business and understand that you did your legwork, you did your homework, you did your groundwork to understand that this is exactly what you wanted to do, that, this is what you wanted. This wasn't a whim. This wasn't this is an avocation and maybe I can turn it into a vocation. Talk about the ups and downs and the pitfalls that you have gone through as you did open your business and as you watched other people go through what they went through, and some advice that you might give people, because people out there want financial freedom, and God only knows. And I'm not going to get political here, but we don't know what this guy who's going to come into the White House on Friday is going to do. I have my thoughts, but people want financial freedom out there, but they're not willing to sacrifice. Talk about that as well. I mean, you talked about coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning, but you were happy. Talk about all of that and let people know out there that you better think this out before you start going to a bank and looking for money. Most
definitely. Oh gosh. First of all, you really have to know what you want. You have to have an intention that you want this. You'll do anything other than hurting people, but you would do anything to get this. You have an intention. You want action to get it. So you start small. You don't start big. If you could start in your house, you start in your house, on your computer. Start with a friend. Get something under your belt. Learn what you're doing. I read every magazine that I could about nails. They did not have schools to learn nails. You only could learn hair. So I read magazines. You didn't have to be licensed at the time, but after 10 years being in the business, I was grandfathered, so I got my license. And I was in the hospital when this happened. That's another thing. I wound up with asthma and didn't know it. I almost died. I literally was 5 minutes away that if I would have left the hospital, the doctor said and yelled at me point blank, okay, go home. You'll walk across the street and I'll have to call the morgue because you'll be dead.
Wow.
And I went hysterical. And I said, you can't do this. I have a son at home. I have a business. He says, I don't care who you have. He says, but you're not leaving the hospital. Now, I had one worker there. So you have to think about all these things. What are you going to do if something happens to you? How is it going to run? So that's the other thing. You have to think about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I was out of work for a week. My employee took care of all the clients. There was no artwork done. They just did regular nails.
Right.
I trained everybody in my salon. I had 7 people working for me. I started out with 35. Excuse me?
Do you need to really sit down though with yourself and with other people and say, gee, the idea, in this case you were doing nails, but just somebody out of the blue who wants to open up a jelly bean store. I mean, you really need to think about A, location, B, is there demand for this out there before you invest your money? I mean, what is that aspect of it like? Like I said, you've seen people come and go, I'm sure, in your neighborhood and friends. Is it just they do on a lick and a promise or a whim and they don't really think it out completely?
No, it's not a lick and a promise. Every store that opened, when I opened, people I know are gone. I'm the only one there. I'm the only one left. The difference is you have to have something that everybody wants.
Yeah, supply and demand.
You have to have something different that no one else does. No one else does as good as you. And you have to honor what you have. And you have to learn and not become part of everybody else. Not follow everybody else. I don't do what every other salon does. I do everything by hand. I don't use any machines. So if you're going into a business, no matter what business you go into, it has to be your own. Not what the person next door did, not the one across the street did, but your own. Something different that you are going to put into your own business that your friend doesn't know about. Maybe you want to do perfume. You have to find something that nobody else has that same smell. Maybe you want to do clothing. I used to paint on clothing.
Really?
My own artwork, yes. And I sold every piece that I've ever painted. I've sold in my salon. And no one else did that. No one else did my painting. Everything else was stamped on material. Mine was hand painted. That's another thing. If you're going to make clothing, make something no one else can make. If you're going to make furniture, make something different. And all of it can start small. You don't have to start big. I told you, I started with $5, a nipper, a bottle of polish, and 1 nail file.
What's a nipper?
A nipper is what clips the cuticles. When you push back your cuticle,
okay.
That's called a nipper.
I thought you were talking about I thought you were talking about a pet or something. Started with a little nipper.
No.
My little
and
nipper
then,
here.
that's how I started. I didn't start big. I started little with one person.
Right.
And if you send it to one person, and I built all my clientele by word of mouth. I advertised once, got one person, but from 35 people, I had 250 in 4 years.
Wow. How many do you have now?
Well, now, as you talked about problems, I almost lost nail artistry.
Why?
I almost completely. Well, the market crashed. My father died. I was asked to move. I was missing money. And I had to make decisions. And my decision is give it up and get a full-time job or find another way. So what I did, I found a job, a full-time job in the city. I worked by day, 7:30 in the morning until I got to my salon at 7 o'clock at night. I worked every night and weekends until 12 o'clock at night just to keep nail artistry alive. I would not give my dream up.
Yeah.
And I built myself back up.
Would you say that that's
now,
probably the difference between someone who was successful or who wants to be successful and someone who's just going through the motion? You're willing to do anything it takes to get where you want to be as compared to somebody else who's not willing to do the things that's necessary?
Yes, I think it is. I think I have a will of what I want. And I find a direction to get it. And I'll find a way to get it. That's how I met you.
Yeah.
And I just said, hello, Gary. I sent you something, and that's how it happened. And I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah. And I'm glad you did.
Thank you. I am too.
I am too.
You're a great person.
Oh, please. I'll send you the check in the morning. But I think also is something that really hit me about you is the perseverance, the creativity, and the courage that you have. You remind me a lot, although my mother would be over 100 years old right now, God rest her soul, but you remind me a lot of my mother. My mother just had that stick-to-itiveness. I mean, when she started to learn the decorating business as a woman, she wanted to be a doctor herself. But back in the day, when she went to Syracuse University, women weren't allowed to go into medicine any more than I think they weren't allowed to be lawyers either. I think that was strictly a man's world, which will be the next part of our topic. But she learned the decorating business. She loved it. For those of you out there that have ever been down to Atlantis in the Bahamas, there used to be a couple of hotels on that property before they built Atlantis, and my mother decorated those hotels numerous times. She also decorated many hotels throughout the Caribbean, working with an awful lot of people in Jamaica and Haiti and other places like that. She did a lot of celebrity homes, but she learned the decorating business from the bottom up. She could upholster furniture. She could antique furniture. I mean, she could come into your house and do the job of every workman that worked there, the person that laid the tile, the person that put up the curtain rods. That's what I did during some of the summers before I got wise and said, no, I'm going to go off and be an extra in movies and make more money. But that's pretty much what I was doing. Even my father, he ended up having to do that with her. And he used to say, Beth, I fly airplanes for a living. This is not what I set out to do, But do you find it easier for women in business today? Now, in your line of work, I would imagine most salon owners, most people who work in salons are women. I know there are men, but is it easier for women to get a break in the business world to get started, or is that still a man's world? Men control the money, and it's still you got to jump through hoops to get it there?
That depends on what field you're going into. Women are starting to become level with men in the business world today. They're growing. They're getting almost the same pay. Not quite. It hasn't gotten there yet. But if you stick to what, as you said, stick-to-itiveness, which I love that word because I've used it all the time, you can get what it is you want. If you have what you need under your belt, you have to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you don't, It's really funny you were saying that. I started a decorating business as well because I paint homes.
Mm-hmm.
And I paint murals on homes.
And some of the examples of your work are on your website, which is fantastic, which is at www.tina, Panariello, and go there and check it out. We're talking to Tina Panariello. I did it again. And she's the author of Published, and she is a fantastic
Polished.
lady. Polished, published, Polished. What did I say? What did I say? Polish?
You said
It looks
published.
Polish to me. I said published. Okay, it's polished. And I'm going to tell you something, folks. She's absolutely one of the most stunningly beautiful women I have seen in a very long time. And I've said that off the air too, so I can say that. I can say that again.
You make a woman blush.
Oh, usually I make them angry. I don't know about blush.
I still blush.
Really? Well, that's kind of cool. That's that little girl still inside you. I like that.
Yes, I don't want to lose it. I think every woman should have that little girl inside them.
But I mean, when you're talking about women in business and stuff, you really got to have a battle plan, and you've got to really jump some hoops more so, even though women are becoming equal. The pay situation, of course, isn't quite there. But is it tougher for women to make it in the business world, opening up a business as compared to what it was, or has it become easier?
Oh, it's become much easier. The only difference is, from what I know, I think today you have to have a proposal to go to a bank to get the money.
Yes.
So that may be a little difficult. You need that behind you. But if you're starting out with something without going directly to the beginning, like opening a store, it would be better. But if you want to go right into opening, you can get help. There are places you go that'll help women. It's a minority in women. There's a business for minority women in business and women in business.
Mm-hmm.
There is a group that can help you get a business. They literally help you.
Do you? I know you do motivational speaking, and I know this book has been very important to you. Polished, not published. It's published, and it's called Polished. What inspired you to write the book?
Well, I had a plan to write an art book. So I went online and I went to look at art books, and all the things I saw online had to do with children's art books. And I said, no, that's not what I want. But on the particular page I was on, there were the name of 3 different publishers. And one of them I picked was Tate Publishing. It happened to be a Christian publishing company, which didn't sway me. Mm-hmm. But they had a little place that you could write what you're about. So I wrote my background, I told them what I did, and I sent it on its way with a phone number and everything else. Mm-hmm. Well, that's how it started. They called me, I called them, and finally we got a chance to talk, and I told them about myself in 15 minutes. I was very excited. And the woman says to me, Tina, send me your manuscript. I don't have a manuscript. I want an art book. No, just send me something. Could you put something together? I said, okay, I'll put something together and send it to you. I sent it to her. Mm-hmm. I didn't hear from them in 2 weeks. I didn't know what they were doing with themselves. I was so, beside myself. Yeah. Why so long? So I said, is this what happened at Jesus Christ when he was being put to death? Because it was during Easter. They put me in this room with a whole bunch of people. Yeah. Well, they did that. They really did. The publishers sit down and talk about it. They got back to me and offered me a contract. But they wanted my life story, not an art book.
Well, but wait a minute. Your life is an art book.
Yes, it is. I know, but they wanted to know more after seeing my work. Mm-hmm. They wanted to know, how did I learn this? How did I get there? What did I do? Mm-hmm. And they gave me a year to write it. And that was another story because they charge you for publishing it, but they don't charge you for a publicist. So the contract, I had it for a month. I went hysterical when I found out they were offering me a contract. And again, during a hard time in a family's life, mm-hmm. my 2 aunts and I were at my other aunt's house when she passed. And they came over the house one day and handed me an envelope. And I said, "What's this?" And they go, "This is the money for your book. Your mother would like you to have it." And I'm very emotional, and I went hysterical crying. I said, "How could you do that? I don't understand." And, "Oh, and there's extra money to buy yourself a new computer so you could write the book."
There you go.
And that's how I wrote my book. And I've never had so much fun doing what I do and helping people grow and talking at all the colleges and on the radio shows and all my video interviews. I've never felt so great, and so I'm inspired to inspire them to help people go after their dreams that feel like they can't do it. And I attest to it. You can do it. You could do anything you want. Inspired action. Go and do it. Don't just say you want to do it. Do it.
Yeah, get off your butt and do it.
And you know what? Don't let anybody say you can't do it. My mother didn't want me to go to college. She didn't want me to go to acting school. What are you going there for? Why are you opening a business? Because I want to. But why do you have to open a business? Go get yourself a regular job. I had this coming from my family. I still did what I wanted to do. Why are you going to California to compete? Why do you want to compete? Because I want to show people what I could do, and I'm the best at what I do.
And you want to find out what everybody else is doing too.
Yeah, and I proved it.
And you worked yourself up from competing to where now you're a judge.
Right. I just finished judging a competition for India.
Is it tough if you have a friend who's in the competition?
I don't know. I've never had a friend in a competition that I had to judge. Never had that.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know what? You don't see their faces. You don't know who they are. You don't know, but it's not a name. It's just, it's a number. When you judge, it's a number that's on a hand. And it's a piece of paper. And that's how you judge. The same thing with what I just did for India. It's just a number, no name.
Wow. Hand models make a good dollar, don't they?
They sure do.
But you got to have the right kind of hands and stuff.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, they have to photograph well.
Donald Trump wouldn't do well. He has small hands.
Oh, you're so bad.
Oh, I had to get that in there. I had to get that in.
You had to.
How did you promote the book? I mean, you've been promoting the book. I mean, I met you. Thank God I met you. We're talking to Tina Panariello, and she's the author of Polished, and she is an owner of her own salon. She's also working herself half to death. She's a motivational speaker. She's an inspirational speaker. She also helps people accomplish their own goals. She's a life coach. She's done a little bit of everything in the world, and she's one delightful young lady. I will tell you that. But you've been self-promoting your book, which a lot of people don't understand, even though you might have a publisher, unless you're some big name author or something like John Meacham or something. You've really got to get out there and promote your own book, don't you?
Yes, I do. I talk about it to everybody. It's in my salon. I have it on a shelf in my salon. I've talked at schools, sold them there, sold them at colleges. And eventually, I have a firm belief the universe is going to make it work. The universe is going to answer everything that I want. I will get what I want. I will be able to talk to everybody that I can reach and help them.
How do you find the kids in the colleges today? Do they have a pessimistic view of the world or an optimistic view of where they're going?
Some do, some don't. When they listen to me, they look at me and they say, "We've never heard anybody talk like you. You really make us want to do what we want to do." One student came up to me and he said to me, "We've listened to so many motivational people. Do you know you are the best?" And I looked at them and I said, "Thank you, but why?" "Because you talk from your heart. You don't just talk from your head." I said, "Thank you very much." He said, and that was a very big compliment. And that person, it was a young man, And he, from what I know now, he's got himself a damn good job, went after what he wanted. If I could reach one in the audience, which you should know with acting, you reach one person, you've done your job.
Right.
I've talked in a school. Gary, you're not going to believe this. I talked in a school that are all women from bad neighborhoods, low income, minority, and very rough crowd. And one of the teachers, who I considered my niece, asked me to come and speak. And I'll never forget this. So here we are in a room with all these girls talking on the phone with everybody else that talked in front of the room, okay? Now, I was introduced. I got up there. Not one person talked to someone else. Not one person got on the phone. Every eye was on me. I was like, oh, my God, what have I done? I literally, and I'm talking to them the way I'm talking to you, no different. I'm not yelling. I'm just firm, talking about what I'm feeling, that I demanded them to listen to me just by saying what I say. And after that, every one of them wanted to be my friend and have me paint their nails.
I think people are an awful lot. You know how animals can sense that you're an animal lover? I think people can look into your eyes and look at your body stance, and I think your posture, and they can tell whether you're full of bull or whether you're actually telling the truth, and whether you care about being there or you're just fulfilling some sort of an obligation that you said yes to some months back. I think people, particularly people that are going through rough times, they don't have time to waste. So they cut through the bull right away. They cut through the red tape, and they probably sensed the real, that you are for real. There's nothing phony about you. There's nothing about you that says I'm going to BS you. I'm going to talk to you. I'm one of you. I am one of you. I was one of you. I still am one of you. You know, that's the other part about this world that I hate so much is no matter how much money you have, you still got to put your pants on one leg at a time. And maybe your worries that I worry about are taken care of because you got money, but you still have to worry about things. You still have to worry that you have enough customers coming in or you make enough sales, regardless who you are. And I think they sense that with you, that you are for real. You know, there's no other. What's the best advice that you've ever got, and the worst that you didn't take?
Oh, gosh. The best advice I ever got was just go after what you want and believe in yourself. But
you have to be realistic within that, though, don't you? I mean, you know, if in high school somebody said to me, Gary, you know, I think you should go after being a nuclear scientist. Well, that's wonderful, except I'm very bad in math and I suffer from dyslexia. Okay, so let's move on, you know, from that thought. But you have to be realistic within that. You have to be conscious of the fact of your strengths and your weaknesses, and you have to be honest with yourself, because maybe your hobby isn't going to be your vocation. So that advice is great, but it also has its limitations. What's the worst advice you ever got, and thank God you turned it down?
Don't do it. You can't. You can't do it. You just can't do it. And I would go, why? Well, even when I was a little girl, everything was why. I was always a person for questions, a million of them. Yeah. And my mother wouldn't let my uncles answer me. And one uncle said, she has to get an answer. How do you say that? So I always asked a lot of questions. I was the kind of person growing up that wherever I worked, I spoke with everybody. I conversed with everyone that would listen. Whether I had a problem, I didn't have a problem, what I wanted to do, but I always talked to people to pick their brain. I had to know things. I had to ask questions. I worked for the phone company. Everyone kept saying, you have to stay there. It's going to be great. Stay there. But I don't want to stay here. I'm not happy here.
Oh God, no. You're not a person that I would classify in the strictest sense like an office 9 to 5 person. I've done that a few times. It's boring.
I did that many times. I worked for a lawyer. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I was a secretary. No, that wasn't me. Acting was me. I had the lead in cabaret. I loved it. I went for it for 7 years. And then after 7 years, I had a son. My ex asked me to please stay home with him. I did. And things happened from there. We broke up after 2.5 years, had to do something, got a job, always worked, always found something. And in the beauty business, I worked for the beauty department at Alexander's, if you remember that store.
I'm old enough to remember that. Most of our audience is probably too young, but yeah.
And I worked there. And I do makeup.
What have you learned about yourself in your walk through this world that you carry with you every day that you're most proud of?
That nothing's inevitable. Something, no, that's not the right word. I don't think inevitable. What I've learned
nothing's forever.
Well, that's true. I know that. It's not. But as long as I'm on this earth, I will grow. And if I can, I will help others to grow because nobody helped me grow.
Yeah.
And that's why I do what I do. I wish, not that I can't say I haven't had mentors during my life, because I probably have, but I can't put names on them. But I do know that I think my aunts would say to me, whatever you want to do, just be good at it and go after it. And everything I want to do that I think of doing, I don't try to do it. There's no such word as trying. It's either you're going to pick it up or you're not.
Yeah.
So everything my mind thinks of, my action, every action I think of, this is what I could say that I've learned. Every action that I've ever wanted to do, I've done.
Is there nothing left? Is there nothing left in your bucket list then?
Oh God, there's a lot left in my bucket list. There's so much more. I want to be able to go around the world with my book, go around the world and talk, to be on a major show and talk to people and tell them they could do it. And go into every school, every college, every area, and help people, help them grow. Because I know what it's like not to be helped, Gary.
Oh yeah. Or better, or the other side of the coin in the show business world, getting stabbed in the back by the people you think are helping you.
Yes, and I believe in that even more because I've asked for help and I didn't get it, and I had to do it myself.
Yeah. And sometimes that's more beneficial than if somebody really had helped you. Even if they just point you in the right direction, you still got to do it yourself. But we got about a minute left here. What do you want people to take away from your book when they read it? Polished.
I want them to take away that they are worthy to go after what they want, their dreams. They have it inside them, and they just have to uncover it and bring it out. And don't let anybody stop you.
Yeah.
Nobody or nothing. Just because you have no money doesn't mean you can't do it. Just because you don't have the knowledge now doesn't mean you can't acquire it. Just because you don't have someone there telling you how to do it doesn't mean you can't learn.
Where can they get your book?
Amazon.com, Tate Publishing, or to me. Just call me, send me your address, and I'll send you a signed copy.
Your phone number is 917-582-7602. We've been talking to Tina Panariello. Did I get it right? Yeah.
Yes, you did.
I finally got it right. Well, it's
I'm
not
so
an easy
proud
name.
of you.
Oh God,
No,
it's not. It's not an easy name. You should do like I did. I just use my first and middle name, Gary Allen, and everybody goes, "Oh, okay, great." Thank you so much. Go ahead.
My maiden name is harder.
What's your maiden
Kobach.
name?
Kobach.
Oh, I could get Kobach. I could get Kobach. I could dig Kobach. See, I could do Kobach till it freezes over. But, Tina, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to join us on the Express. I'll be talking to you in a couple of days. You are a wonderful young lady, and I'm so proud to have met you and to get to know you a little bit. And I hope my audience enjoyed this. And I'm going to stay in touch and all the other good stuff. And of course, hoping you come down to Florida and we actually will physically meet and sit down and have a cup of coffee or something.
I would like that. Thank you very, very much. And I've loved being on with you. You are such a delight. You really are.
Thank you,
and a great
young lady.
man. You
Well,
really are.
I'll send the check in the morning. It's in the mail. Have a great night, young lady.
You too, young man. Bye.
Bye-bye. We had a great hour. And for those of you that want to keep up with what's going on in the Express, go to Facebook at Gary Allen, ALAN, YouTube.com, Gary Allen, The Express. At Thursday at 7 p.m., Diversity Broadcast Network, thisprogram.com will repeat itself. ProgressiveVoices.com, you can catch some of my old shows. YouTube is the best place to catch all of my old stuff. And before too long, the new website will be up and running, and you'll be able to hear me here, there, and everywhere. Folks, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day. I appreciate it very, very much. To all of you, have a great week. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
You've been listening to The Express with Gary Allen. Join us here every Tuesday night at 10 for more captivating talk with Gary Allen. See you next time on The Express.